Okay, so welcome to another clean conversation with Caitlin. This time I'm talking to my lovely partner, Marian Way. And I'm hoping this will be a conversation, but I kind of wanted to download some stuff that I've been thinking about when we haven't been working together as much over the last few months. So the subject today is safety, belonging, and freedom. And those might not be quite the right words, but do you know how we've been working with the neuroscience people at the Applied Neuroscience Association and looking at the Triune Brain, which is not a term we want to use anymore. And I've been trying to explain, people have said, oh, well, we'll use the adaptive brain or we'll use a traffic light system. I'm like, no, you're not. It's not to do with stop, are you ready, go. That's not what it's to do with. And it's certainly not to do with the way the brain works. It's to do with when you're in a group or just looking at yourself or in a couple, and you're wanting to pay attention to the way that you're thinking about something or the category of things that are important to you in this moment. It's a model for coding that. So, we have sort of, you might be in a bit of a state of fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn. And I've been using fawn a lot more lately. Or you might be thinking about what's the way we do things around here. These are my preferences. It might not be that my safety is threatened. So if this is my attention is on my safety, and in order to protect my safety, I might go and fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And we were talking about how, in some of the times I've been training this stuff, I'll talk about how, certainly in the 1980s, if I was out as a young woman out at a nightclub or something like that, and a man came to talk to us, even if we'd said 2 or 3 times, about our rules, we don't want to talk to you, we're happy with each other's company, please can you leave us alone? You could not keep speaking straightforwardly. In order to stop that becoming unsafe, we had to do it with a smile on our faces, we had to soothe their egos. Otherwise, we'd end up in danger. And that you can have sort of social constructs that mean certain people are always in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Because their lives the social construct of their lives is differently organized to others. So the roles of rights in a relationship or a society aren't always balanced. And so if this is about belonging, so it's like, where's your interest at the moment? It's on belonging, on rules of engagement, on preferences. So when you and I were working on our book last week, one of my preferences is for speed. Like, oh, let's get this done right now. And you'll say, well, no, let's get it done properly. Like, oh, let's do it now. And we're very good at adapting our personal preferences for each other, yeah. But so that both of us, and so I've been thinking about this bit, and it's like, this is freedom. And I'm just going to use that term at the minute for freedom, creativity, the ability to be at our best. It's like, if we're not worried about this and there's enough of these satisfied, then we can do these things here.
Yeah. So Caitlin, you said we weren't going to use the term Triune Brain anymore, which was the first I knew that, actually. And that still, to me, looks like a Triune Brain picture.
Yeah, well, so I think one of the things to think about is, what was I using the Triune Brain for? So the reason we're not going to use it anymore is because the Triune Brain is a neuro-myth. So it was an attempt, I've been saying for years, this is not actually how the brain's organized.
Yeah.
But because the idea was it's evolutionary. So this is your reptile, then your mammalian, and then your neocortical. But it isn't how the brain operates. It's not how it's built. But I've never used it because I was trying to explain how the brain worked. I've always used it for what I'm doing now. So these are just different ways of going. This is really a model of attention. Is where's the attention of either the individual or the group? And so, yeah, but the reason I got interested, the reason I wanted to share this with you was when I was working on a drama-free conversations with a group a couple of weeks ago. Jack and I were running it together. And it was a really interesting group. They'd done a lot of personal development. And so they took it much deeper. You know, drama-free is often a really nice introduction to this work, but this one was like, whoa. And we were saying, so what do you go into drama for? And when we wrote out this big list of the different reasons that their systems go into drama. And so I know somebody might say, oh, well, I went into drama because of justice, because something was unfair. And I say, okay, so when it's that something's unfair, what's important to you about fair? And they were saying, well, because we all have the right to freedom and we all have the right to safety. And so I just popped that somewhere. Okay, so who's got something different? I go into drama because I felt I was being backed into a corner. Okay, so what's important to you about being backed into a corner? Oh, I need to have self-autonomy. I'm like, oh, that's another freedom. And so when I looked at all of these, why does our system go into drama? It goes into drama for safety, belonging, or freedom. Was another way that you could categorize
those three things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
yeah. So, I suppose what I'm wondering is whether we could change the diagram in some way so that it was a real move away from the triune brain.
Well, except that the reason that I still like it is because lots of people do these symbols, which is one of the other reasons I'd like the brain. When I first came across it in Eric Jensen's brain-based teaching and learning, the reason I really liked it was because people say things like this. They go, oh, how would you like, if I'm doing conflict and mediation, how would you like this to be? They were like, oh, I'd really like to have an open heart. Yeah, or I'm going to have to open my mind. And they do, this is what they do. And it's like they want to not be here, they want to be here. And so there's something spatial about it. Whereas, they'll say, I get into tunnel vision and nothing else matters. And it is like, if it's safety, we go here. And for some of us, especially those of us who are neurodivergent, we have, I don't know if that's more of us who are neurodivergent or not, but when somebody does something which we can't process, then that can put us right here as well. It's like we can't, or for me, if there's noise, I can't do it. But I know that for some people working with me where there's no structure means that they can't think anymore, or no predictive structure because it's too emergent. So I think I'm up for having it changed, but I want to advocate for this narrowing of options to expanding of options.
Yeah, I could see that. That sounds good.
I suppose this could maybe be in the middle, because one of the big things about the triune brain is it's like they're built on each other. So it could be,
so when there's the narrowing and the widening, where in terms of physical spatial metaphors, where does belonging, how does belonging seem to you?
Yeah, so if So it's, if there's a sense of belonging, there's like, oh, okay, she does it a bit like this, you do it a bit like this, or you and I, when we were talking about doing this and I did something which didn't work for you, because we're quite attuned to each other, I can see that what I've done has closed you down a little bit, and it closed me down a little bit. And so to me, when we don't have that sense of belonging, it sort of restricts a bit of what we can do with each other and how we're going to operate. So it's we're not so restricted that we won't speak to each other, or we'll never speak of that again. We haven't switched things off and disconnected, but we're a little bit more limited or a little bit more rigid. So that's why it's a little bit in the middle for me.
Okay.
And then we settled ourselves, and then we built ourselves back up until we have a full range of movements again.
So then with the freedom, you can have belonging. So that the freedom encompasses the belonging and the safety.
Yes. Yeah. And obviously for some people like me, if there's not a slightly unsafe, but different people have different contexts where they feel safe. So obviously my background is in quite violent teens, and so they feel safe to me, whereas other people, they would hate that, do you know? So it's to do with your sense of safety as well. So some of us can feel really safe having really raised voices around us. And do you know what I mean? So I don't mean it's real safety in that sense, but it's our sense of, does this mean we're safe or not?
Yeah. So can you have the feeling of belonging without the freedom?
Yes. But it's a restricted belonging. So you know, we talk a little bit about the fragile, robust, resilient, anti-fragile. So we might have a very strong sense of belonging, but a very restricted set of who we can be within that belonging.
Right.
Yeah. But in which case, it's a strong sense of belonging, but it's not got a huge sense of freedom. So
but if you've the other way around, then if you've got the freedom, are we saying that you must have the belonging? The belonging is a prerequisite or not?
I think you can belong to yourself, or you can belong to an activity. It doesn't have to be a belonging to a group.
Right.
Then, unless you wanted freedom in that group or with that group. I think this came as well from the work that Sarah Bacher got us to look at via Brené Brown's work about what's the difference in a team between fitting in and belonging. And I think that started this thinking as well of like, oh, okay, belonging of the kind that they were talking about to me is belonging right here. It's that I don't have to limit or adjust my system to belong and still be safe. Whereas there are other places where I have to restrict in order to have freedom. In this context, it's quite a pie, a slice of pie, not a whole.
A whole circle.
Oh, yeah, not a whole pie. Yeah. Anything else that we need to say about that? Because I think it's still a work in progress. And obviously I don't want to change all of the workbooks until we've settled.
No. So if it's a work in progress, then what's the next thing you'll be doing or will be doing?
Well, the reason I want to record this is I'd like some input for others. And I bet you there are 1,000 people who've been talking about this in different ways. As was the minute I talked to Sean about it, he wanted to talk about his Buddhist learnings on this work. And so I'm sure there's lots of people who will have good ideas. I'd like to talk to the neuroscientists about, you know, whether this is just a model about attention. It's got nothing to do with neuroscience. It just stops making a neuroscience myth. Or is there something interesting about it that does tie into neuroscience? So I think socializing it and then coming back together, maybe not too far away, maybe in a month.
Okay.
Because then I've got a bit of time in the summer where I'd like to redo workbooks. And so if we come in a month, have another revisit.
Okay.
Maybe what LinkedIn's brought to us or Facebook's brought to us, and then agree a new model.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.